Yes. Well, hello. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. How was your week this past week?
It was good. There were some good parts of it.
Well, that's good. I know that in our first session, you had said that your boyfriend was why you were here because he said that he was going to leave you if you didn't get yourself straight. Um, so I'm really interested to hear how your boyfriend and you are doing and what all happened last week.
I think we're doing better. After last week, I kind of even feel better coming here this week.
Okay.
And between us, when we argue, I try to think about it more, what I'm saying or how I'm saying it. I'm yelling, and that's it.
So it sounds like this week you have tried to really show some restraint and think about things before you start yelling. Is that right? Okay. And how has that worked? Have you all had less fights, more fights? What's been going on?
It's been it hasn't gotten worse.
Okay.
Um, when we do argue now, I just think it's because of him leaving to school. Um,
Okay.
and it's gonna be far, so I'm not sure how I feel about that if he's not gonna be here. But it's I try to talk with him instead, so we're not. It's not as much yelling, and I'm just upset that he's leaving or that
So,
he's traveling so far.
oh, now you said, I know you mentioned the first session that he was gonna apply for school and go back to school. So now he's been accepted and he's in classes now?
He wants to go. He's not in classes yet, but
Okay.
it's about 2 hours away. So
Okay.
it's with him working and going to school. I feel like I'm just not going to see him anymore. But that's what he's
Okay.
planning to do, and I don't want him to do it, but he's he's insisting. That's what he wants.
So you definitely don't want him to go back to school and what have you because you feel like it'll make your time with him really short every day. And so have you guys communicated about this at all? How have you communicated that to him?
I've just told him that I don't want to go, and he's that's when we start getting angry at each other, but only because I don't. He says that I don't want to listen to him, but I just don't want him to leave, and um, I'll tell him that I don't want him to go because then it makes me feel like he wants other things, and not he's gonna forget about me, and I don't want him to leave because he won't be here physically, and I feel like he'll be too distracted with other things to even talk to me.
So it seems to me you're feeling like if he does this and goes to the classes and what have you, and has such limited time with you, he might start distancing from you as well, and maybe it'll impact your relationship in a bad way.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
that seems to be kind of, I know you're smiling a little bit, but I hear you saying that, and you sound sad, but you're smiling. So talk to me about that a little bit.
I don't know how to think about it in a way where I'll be happy with him going away. I want to feel like I'm proud of him, but I don't. It makes me feel again like someone else is leaving, and there's.
Okay.
I don't want to feel alone or not have him without me because he's the one that I want to be with.
So, so it sounds like that you are happy about him getting education, that it's primarily the distance and the time that it would take to get there, get back, and devote to his studies that he wouldn't be spending with you. That's the problem.
Yeah, I just I want to feel happy, but I don't like any of it at all. I don't want him to go. I don't, and he doesn't. He says that I'm not compromising with him and that we can work something out. But I don't. I feel like I can't. I don't. I can't be happy for him until he tells me something else that he won't go that far. Or maybe he doesn't go at all. So I was maybe even thinking of going with him over there. So going to school again,
Mm-hmm.
and then maybe we could see each other there, and maybe we could even move over there.
Oh, wow. So now is he moving to the school? How is that working?
I'm not sure yet. That's where
Okay.
we've kind of been arguing. He says he wants to go, and he'll try to compromise with me and tell me that he'll stay here, but he'll drive over there and come back here. But that's still so far away, and I think it's gonna be kind of pointless because if he leaves so early and comes back so late, I won't. Well, if I'm sleeping, or I won't see him anyway because he has to go and come back. So that's what I was trying to get him to see if I could go over there, and or if he just won't go at all.
And what was his reaction when you passed those two ideas by him?
He was upset that I didn't want him to go. And he
Okay.
said that I should be proud of him or happy for him, that I don't want that. And then so then I was trying to tell him that we could move there together, and he said that it's a lot of it would be a lot of work, and he just wants to see how it goes first.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. How did that make you feel when he said that?
it's kind of making me feel like he is trying to find a way to distance himself or go away from me. Um, but I want to see if I could do something so that he won't leave or he won't feel the need to go so far or live so far.
And did that make you feel possibly sad or fearful? Which of those feelings do you think encompass what you were feeling at that moment?
Sad. I was
Sad.
sad.
Okay.
I was scared of him leaving.
Right.
I was sad that he won't be here if he does. I don't want to even think that he'll leave because it does make me feel sad. I get scared that he's gonna leave, and it doesn't just mean that he's leaving to school. It means that he'll be leaving me. So
And when you get scared about him leaving, where do you feel it at physically in your body?
probably I feel it maybe everywhere. There's some things. Sometimes I just try to like relieve that pain, and then
Mhm.
I don't. I get scared, like especially in my chest. I feel like
Okay.
sometimes it's kind of hard to breathe
Okay.
because I don't want him to leave, and it does make me sad. But I just get scared because I don't want to be without him.
And like you mentioned in the first session, your father died when you were very young, and then your older sister, who was very much like a second mother to you, and you were really attached to, moved out to get married to her husband, and now she has her own family, and you felt like they left you too. So now, do you feel like your boyfriend's gonna definitely leave you now as well?
Yeah, I think he is, and that's why I want to move with him and see if he'll
Hmm.
go. He told me again that that was a big thing and like a huge idea. I don't want him to leave, and I don't want to feel that way. I want to go with him, or I don't want him to go to school over there.
And it sounds like it's very frightening for you. What's it like to feel so scared all the time of people that you're attached to leaving you?
I just feel like there's something wrong with me, or if I'm doing something wrong, maybe if I'm not good enough to be their friend or their girlfriend or any any anybody in their life, you know, I start getting upset at myself and I try to figure out if I'm doing anything wrong or if there's something wrong with me.
So you start thinking that way, and does that lead you to doing something to relieve the stress or to make yourself feel better?
Sometimes I've hurt myself in the past,
Oh, okay.
physically. I'll go to that if when I'm feeling really upset or scared in the moment and I don't know what else to do. But I've done that before, and um, sometimes no one really knows or notices
Okay.
that.
What do you do specifically to hurt yourself?
I start cutting myself
Okay.
in places where I'm notice. I just feel like it's something to help me stop feeling that sadness or because I just feel it everywhere and I want it to go away. I don't want to feel hurt. I don't want to feel like they're leaving me again, once again.
And how do you feel after you cut yourself?
I kind of feel like I shouldn't have done it, but it feels better when I do because
Okay.
I don't feel as much pain or um, sadness. I just don't. It kind of does relieve that for me.
So help me understand exactly what you're saying. I'm getting from you your statements just now that immediately after you do it, you're like, "Phew, I feel so much better now." But then later, you're like, oh no, I really shouldn't have done that. Is that right?
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
immediately you feel better. And then after a while, how long is that before you start feeling bad about the cutting,
Um,
approximately?
some hours after
Okay,
that, it's really later in the day, depending. It's a while afterwards.
okay. And how often do you cut yourself?
It's just really any time that I feel anything where I get scared that someone's leaving. I've
Okay.
lost friendships before, and um, when I start feeling bad about myself, or like when I start trying to figure out if something's wrong with me, I don't want to feel those things because it's kind of, it kind of makes me feel worse.
And when did this all begin, the cutting? When did that start?
Probably around the time that my sister had left us.
Okay. And how old were you then again?
16.
16. Okay. So it started then. And does it happen? Is there any pattern at all on how it happens? Like, is it at least once a month? Is it at least, or is it just totally random?
Um, it's random, but I know
Okay.
I've done it like several times in that month, a few
Okay.
times in a month, more than twice. It's just any time that I'm feeling overwhelmed with um, people in my life or how I'm feeling with myself. It's at any moment that I just
Okay.
feel
So it really doesn't happen like once a week on Fridays at
yeah.
5 o'clock or anything like that. It's more like I'm feeling frightened that my boyfriend's gonna leave me. I can't deal with the stress and fear and pain and sadness. So I just want to do something to distract myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
And you said it began about the time you were 16. When is the last time it happened? What's the most recent time?
It was actually during this last week.
Okay.
It was one of my friends made me feel like I was kind of slow.
Mm,
She kind of pointed out that we were actually hanging out and we went to the mall to shop some shop for anything, and I just invited her to come with me, and she was telling me things, and I would keep asking her um, well, I would ask her to repeat herself, and I don't know if she was joking, but she said that I was slow in trying to understand how she was feeling and or what she was talking about, and it made me feel upset because we were just hanging out, and I didn't like that at all. That she's starting to say things about me. She says that I'm slow, and why would she want to come shopping with me?
And so after that happened, did you wait till you were alone to do the cutting, or how many, like, how did the cutting start that day?
Well, after that, I did get upset and I told her why she would say that to me and um, what did I do for her to say that to me. And she was telling me to calm down, that it was nothing, that I just kept asking her to repeat herself. So after that, I was mad and I left. And
Okay.
it wasn't until afterwards that I left and went home that I cut
Okay.
myself.
And the setting that you use when you cut yourself, is it always at home?
And sometimes it's at home, and sometimes at first when my sister was leaving, that I would tell her that I would hurt myself if she left, and
Okay.
she still kind of helped me through it. But there's sometimes that time it was when I did it to her, like in front of her.
Oh, in front of her. So you weren't alone doing those, but primarily, are you alone or with people?
Alone.
Okay, alone for the most part. Okay. And you said it just happened this past week as well. So the clinic does have a policy about self-harm, and I do need to talk with you about that for a minute, okay? We have people who come in to the clinic and we are doing counseling with them, and they do disclose to us from time to time, you're definitely not alone, that they have cut themselves, and we call that here at the clinic self-harm, okay? And part of the thing, you remember the packet of information that I had you sign last week, and on that it does say that if you hurt yourself or other people, we will, take action about that. So we definitely don't want you to hurt yourself. And what we would like for you to do is to continue with the counseling, and we would like to educate you on other coping mechanisms that you can try, and not just one or two. I'll bring a lot of different ones, to the next session, and I'll educate you on each of them, and then you can choose a couple that you might want to try to use instead of cutting. How does that sound to you?
It sounds good.
Okay. So I'm gonna have to stop for a minute and have you sign the no harm, self-harm contract. Sorry, my voice is going. The no self-harm contract. So that basically states that you, the client, are agreeing to enter an agreement with me, a contract saying that you will not harm yourself while you're in counseling here with us. Okay? Are you open to signing that for me? Okay, all right. Let me get that for you. It's in my bag, and I will have you sign that, and then we will continue. And I definitely want you to have time to look it over as well. Okay? All right. What are your thoughts about that?
I think if there's a way to not do that, but also help me kind of go away from what I'm feeling without having to hurt myself. It'll help.
Okay. And let me get my pen out. Sorry, it's taking me just a minute. All right. Okay. Okay, Jordan, sorry. I'll get it. Just a Okay. Okay, all right. Here it is. It's right here, and it just says that you're going to, as long as you're in counseling, you're not going to do anything that is harmful to yourself physically. Okay? All right, if you'll just sign at the bottom of that page. And if you need to read it, I'll let you read it. You need to read over it. All right. Thank you. Now, how do you feel about signing an agreement to not harm yourself? What are your thoughts?
I think it's something hard. I think it's something I've done before, and I've um, I've wanted to see if I could do something about changing that. And, I know when I'm starting to feel that I know when I feel like I want to hurt myself, just because I know that it takes away those feelings, and knowing that I need to stop, knowing that it's something that I have to stop after I sign that, it's like hopefully I'll find another way to deal with it. And just like with the yelling, I want to try and think about it before. So I think it's something that'll help me. I don't like when I start to feel those things. I want it to go away, the pain and my chest hurting or feeling like I can't breathe. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like this, you're viewing it as a positive thing for yourself, entering the contract and something that you were hoping to work on anyway. So how do you feel about us working on that together here in the sessions? Is that something you're open to doing?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's something helpful, and I think that you'll be able to help me with that. I think it's something that I feel like I could trust you with it, and it makes me feel better knowing that I
Okay.
can
So it sounds like this is a good opportunity for you to get a beneficial information and coping skills, alternative coping skills that you can use in your life to help yourself cope with stress and fear of abandonment, and maybe when you feel sadness and what have you, in a different way that's not as harmful to yourself. So let's work on that collaboratively. And to start it, I'm going to go ahead. I know I usually save homework for the end, but since we're already on the topic, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that for homework this week, I would really like for you to take a minute here and there as the week progresses. You mentioned this is going to be hard, not to cut yourself, and I recognize that. Um, and the goal of us working together is to make it easier and easier and easier for you not to cut yourself, not to make it more difficult. So, something that helps when we're trying to move towards making something easier is if we know more information, because knowledge is power. So, I'd like for you to journal if you can. You can even do it on your notes on your cell phone, that's fine. This week, I'd like for you to journal every time you have the urge or the thought to cut yourself. Okay? I would like for you to take a few minutes each time you feel very tempted or thinking about it a lot this week. Stop what you're doing, note the time of day and the date if you can. If you can't, that's not the main importance. The main importance is for you to jot down what you're feeling right then when you're wanting to cut yourself or when you're thinking about it a lot. And if you can recall what happened or what you were thinking about right before, that would also be really helpful. And then we could see if there's a pattern to it at all. Like I said, knowledge is power. So this will possibly help us to help this become an easier thing for you to accomplish. How do you feel about that?
I think that's good. I think I can do that.
Okay, so you're very open to committing to journaling this week? Okay, that's good, yes. Okay, so we'll have that for your homework assignment. I wanted to go ahead and set that up now while we were talking about it, instead of saving it for the end, but at the end, I'll definitely remind you so that we'll be on the same page. And like I said, it can be in your cell phone. It doesn't have to be handwritten, and we can go over it in the next session. What other coping mechanisms are you using, Jordan, besides the cutting? Is there anything else you're doing? Are you, like some people drink a glass of wine after a stressful day, other people might, do other things. Is there anything else you're doing that some people exercise? What other things do you do when things get really tough and you get sad and what have you? What's some other things you've done?
I really, some things that I do is a lot when I'm feeling this way is I try to go out with some of my friends and go to eat is what I really like to do during times that I want something to eat. I feel it kind of distracts me also.
Okay.
Instead of like focusing on my food rather than how I'm feeling.
Okay.
I think I would do that. I think that's something else that I do. Um,
Now, do you only eat when you're sad, or do you also eat when you're happy?
I'll eat and I'll eat in any time. So when I'm sad, when I'm happy too, I like to get food, and that's when I'll ask my boyfriend to go with me to eat, and that's when we'll go out to eat anywhere. But even when I'm starting to feel kind of stressed or overwhelmed, I'll definitely eat more.
Is that something you would also like to work on in our sessions together, or is that not a problem for you?
I don't know if it's a problem.
Okay.
I just I do it so often, but I don't know if it's something that I need
Mm-hmm.
help with. I know that I most of the time I will tend to hurting myself because it actually makes that those feelings go away. And I think that when I start eating or anything, it just kind of distracts me from the feelings.
Okay, so it's more of a distraction. It doesn't really give you the relief and the release that the cutting gives you, but it just takes your mind off of the stress or the bad things temporarily. Is that right? Okay, so possibly that's not something we need to work on then. But it does seem to me though that it's possible you might want to work on communication because, like you mentioned at the beginning of the session, you've been trying to think about things before you go to yelling or what have you with your boyfriend. And communication strategies can be very beneficial for people, especially when you might go to getting upset right away. Maybe things are being miscommunicated, possibly. Is that something you feel like could be beneficial to you?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like my friend this past week who I just started getting angry at her for telling me those things. I didn't even listen to what she really had to say or what she was really trying to tell me. It just made me feel like I was doing something wrong, and I think she's don't want to speak to her again. But if I could have maybe listened to her, I would have still had more friends that I know instead of them leaving or not talking.
So when you guys were out shopping, okay, and you were asking her, the same, to repeat herself, you said, and she said, "Are you slow?" Um, what did you feel instantly in that moment after she said that?
I instantly felt like she was trying to say something mean to me, something else. It made me feel kind of mad, like angry that she was about to tell me something else. I felt like she was judging me or making me feel like I was, kind of dumb because I couldn't understand what she was saying, or I was not paying attention to what she was saying, and she was making me feel like I was, it's not that I wasn't listening, it's just that I didn't really understand what she was trying to tell me, and her calling me slow made me feel angry in that moment
Mm-hmm.
because I felt like she was trying to call me dumb or stupid.
And now you told me how you felt, and you felt like you said you felt angry, and you also felt like she was insulting your intelligence and calling you stupid or what have you. What did you think as soon as she said that? What were your thoughts? Now, feelings and thoughts are different, remember, because thoughts aren't really what you're feeling exactly. It's more what are you thinking about, not exactly what you're feeling. Okay, feeling is sad, happy, angry, like you said, but thoughts are why is she asking me this, or what have you, or what you're thinking about. So, can you tell me what you were thinking when she said that?
Yeah, so when she told me that, I was thinking that if I had done anything else for her to think that about me, I was thinking,
Okay.
um, why would she say that to me?
Mhm.
I was thinking that I was thinking, am I really dumb, or is I was thinking that I didn't want to be there with her anymore. I was thinking that, that I was thinking why she would tell me that if I was trying to actually listen to her.
Mhm. So that must have been really hard to have those kinds of negative thoughts about yourself running through your head, and it seems like you might have negative thoughts about yourself a good little bit. Is that right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. And that's what sometimes makes you want to cut yourself too, you mentioned. So, how do you feel about, would that be something that you would want to work on in the therapy sessions going forward? How you're thinking and the negative self talk and self thoughts, always thinking the worst of yourself. Would you like to change that?
I would. I think it would help. I think those things, and I never really think positive things like how good I'm doing or how good I am. I'll think things about other people, but not really about myself. I just find myself thinking.
So you're able to recognize good traits of other people, but you don't seem to be able to recognize goodness about yourself.
I think it's hard. Like I know when I just feel or I think things about myself that I don't know if they're true or not. It just feels that way in that moment. I just think that I'm not good enough for someone.
Mm-hmm.
But I do when I like my boyfriend. I think he's perfect almost in every way, and
Mm-hmm.
so I know that I can think good things, just not about myself. So it might be something I could work on. I would want to.
Okay. And we can definitely work on that moving forward. There are a lot of things that we can explore and strategies that we can try. And I'll just assign myself some homework to come in. How about that? And with some different strategies that we can try together in the next session. Now, how do you feel about me assigning myself some homework? I see you're laughing and I'm laughing, so it's kind of fun to to not be the one having the homework, huh?
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, we have to do our homework too. So that's good. It's all fair. We're in a collaborative relationship, you and me. So we're in this together, and I'm going to have time when I have my homework, and you're going to have time when you have your homework. So we're in it together, okay? Um, so it looks like we're going to have a lot to work on, and I'd like to have a way to prioritize that. And I feel like you know yourself better than anybody else knows you, Jordan. So Jordan knows Jordan. So let me ask you, what of all these things that we've been talking about, the communication, okay, the learning a different coping mechanism that is an alternate one that we can use instead of the cutting. And the last one that we just talked about, working on, how you can think more positively about yourself. Of all of those that we've talked about working on going forward, which one do you think would be the most important for you to start on as soon as possible?
I think the most important would be the self cutting.
Mhm.
I think just because I would rather I constantly feel like sadness, or if I'm feeling any type of way that where I want to hurt myself, I almost want to do it immediately. So
Okay,
if I find another way to do it, then it'll help me with all the other things also. Um,
that's very
and
good.
I think it's something. It's the first one I'd like to work on just for myself, and just because I think it help in other ways.
I'm so glad to hear you say that because that to me makes me know that this is something you actually want to do. And it'll possibly help you, like you said, in other aspects of your life as well. It won't just help you in one aspect, but everything. So it seems like you really recognize the value of getting different, alternative, more healthy coping skills so that you will not rely on the cutting. That's very encouraging, definitely, because people who are motivated to change a behavior usually are much more successful. So you should be very happy with yourself about, wanting to change that unhealthy behavior. That's awesome. So we'll definitely work on that. And now I wanted also to talk just a little bit because we had talked about your father last week and how he passed away when you were a young girl, and how that maybe began some of your feelings of, if someone's important to me, they're going to leave or what have you. Did you do the homework on writing the letter to him? Okay, and it doesn't have to be a long letter. It didn't have to be a long letter. So, do you mind reading it to me real quick? Okay. I just want you to read it out loud. Unless you don't feel comfortable, then I can read it. What do you feel more comfortable? You feel comfortable reading it? Okay.
So this was just a letter to my father about tell him. I just told him I was writing. It's kind of hard to say how to say
Right.
like hi to someone when they're not here, but I was
Right.
just gonna start.
Exactly. It's fine.
I am thankful for the time that I was able to spend with you, and even though it feels like it was not that much, it was not enough time or even a lot of time with you, I was thinking that there's certain memories that I was able to hold on to, and that I could remember in pieces, and it makes me feel kind of complete with you here, when you were here. And when you left, I kind of didn't understand what was happening, and I never got to see you again after that. And some of the memories started fading away, and it kind of hurt when I couldn't remember those things anymore, or what it felt like to be happy with you. That's what I was writing.
I like that you acknowledged that you were grateful for the time that you did have with him. And remember in the first session, you told me that you had that special memory of you and him, and that that would be something that you would think about from time to time and feel closer to him. So that's really, even though you were so young when he passed, having that fond memory to go back to is probably really precious to you.
I just remember him, and the only feelings that I felt or that I can remember even now is just feeling good or feeling happy.
Well,
He
that's
was
great.
there. So I don't feel like I remember anything bad.
Okay. And how did it make you feel to write this letter? What were your feelings then when you were writing it?
I was kind of feeling actually happy instead of sad.
Okay.
I was just, kind of made me feel like I was remembering him in a good way, and that if he was really here to speak to him, he wouldn't like ignore me or tell me, those I shouldn't feel any of those feelings. He would actually be there and listen to me, so it kind of felt good. And afterwards, it did kind of make me feel sad just knowing because he was not actually here and it's not actually can't respond to what I'm saying.
Hmm. So you felt happy in a way because you were remembering the good times and everything, and then afterwards, when you really started to think about it and think about the fact that he is gone and you won't be able to have conversations with him, that really made you feel sad.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, I can imagine it would be. Losing a parent at a young age is one of the hardest things a child will ever go through. So I definitely don't want you to feel like you're alone with that. And, I want you to be able to, think about him in a positive way and not feel sad. And it might happen, it might not happen because grief is a funny thing and different people process grief in different ways. But I feel like taking this step on writing him a letter at least will allow you to process some of that loss. How did you feel? Did you feel like you were able to process it at all?
yeah, it felt like it felt more real knowing that he's really not going to come back and
Mm-hmm.
really be here, and he is gone. Because even as I was younger, it's just kind of hoping that
Mm-hmm.
it's not true, that it's
Mm-hmm.
a memory also that he's gone and maybe he'll come back and it's just something that I was making up in my mind. It kind of it did help me process it in a way where I was able to understand that it's it's real and it's that I can talk with him even if he's not here.
Right.
So it kind of did help me in that way.
Okay. So that's encouraging to hear you say that you feel like you can talk to him even though he's not here. Um, do you have conversations with him sometimes, or how does that go?
Um, Not really. There was
Okay.
some times where I have, but it was just when I was feeling upset, I would think that he would be here to help me.
Right.
And so I would tell him how I'm feeling, why I'm feeling that way. And I would just like to think that he would respond or act in a way where he, like as my dad, where he hug me or tell me that it's going to be fine. Um, but usually I just really didn't think, I didn't want to do that because he wasn't really here anyway.
Right.
There was nothing he could really do. So,
And it seems like that relationship was one that was very positive for you. And when you compare it to your relationship with your other parent, your mother, that's a little bit more strained maybe than you felt with your dad. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't. My mom has, ever since I can remember, since my dad had passed away, it's just kind of been quiet, and I don't, I don't really like to go to her because it just makes me feel like she's only there to judge me or not help me in any way. And I remember that's why I would turn to my sister instead. My mom has always just been distant from me, and I felt like she didn't really care. So,
And you said that you guys don't spend much time together either, right? And did you spend a lot of time with your sister when she lived there? It sounds like you did.
yeah, when she lived there, anything that had to do with school, I would come to her. I had some problems, and anything that had to do with my friends or school, I would come to her. And she was older than me, so she kind of brought me through it. She would say that she went through that too, and so it was. I would just go to my sister. We would spend time, and sometimes she wasn't there anyways. With her friends, she was older, so she got to go out. But I know that she was always there for me, even if she wasn't actually physically there. I could contact her.
So her relationship with you too seems like one kind of similar to the relationship you had with your dad, where it was more positive in nature. Would you say that was true?
Yes.
Yeah. Seems like there's a lot of similarities between the way you felt like, because you mentioned that if your dad was here, you could imagine him being supportive of you and that sort of thing. And it seems like your sister was really supportive of you too. So it seems like they had a very similar nature and relationship with you was very similar. So that must be really hard not having that from your dad anymore because of his death, and then not having it as often from your sister because she has her own family now. How is that like adjustment?
It was kind of hard, especially when my sister left. She actually left the house because it was, I was wanting her to stay there longer even and
Right.
just not go, or maybe if she could move in with her family there. It was when my dad passed away, I can only remember feeling upset and sad and confused, and I would try to tell my mom and she would just not really care. So everything I would just turn to my sister, and when she left, it was hurt more just because I had spent more time with her even than my dad, but then it would just mean it would be me and my mom, and I can't turn to her for anything. I can't ask her for anything, so it was hard, and I didn't like that happened. It's hard adjusting now, and sometimes I feel like it's not real that my sister left. It's not. She'll come back.
Now, if your mother was supportive of you, what would that look like? Tell me what that would look like to you if she were to say one thing to you that would mean a lot and show support. What would that statement be?
I would think that she would tell me that she loves me and that she would care for me and help me to motivate me with anything that I want to do. I feel like a lot of the times um, I don't know what to do, and like with myself, sometimes I felt if she was there to listen to me, I wouldn't have to turn to hurting myself or trying to find happiness somewhere else.
So yeah, and instead you guys just don't talk very much at all.
Yeah.
So, and when you do, it seems maybe negative as well.
Yeah, I think I don't want to talk to her, and I kind of, I live with her, so sometimes I just, I can't avoid but talking to her about certain things or seeing her, but I wish that sometimes I wish that I wouldn't, that she wasn't there. So.
That must be really hard having, her there, but knowing that she's not really that supportive of you. So it must be really difficult. And so I think that going forward with the future sessions, we'll be working on those things that we were talking about, working on with the self harm, incorporating alternative coping skills to cutting. For homework, based on that, we're going to have you do journaling. And you said you're very open to that and committed to doing that. So we'll do that. And I think that's all we're going to do for homework from you this week. And I have my own homework to do. So I got to get busy on that too. And we're also going to work on communication as well. And we're going to work on maybe trying to incorporate more positive thoughts for you to think about yourself moving forward. So I'm excited to continue working with you and to see how this all develops. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And I hope that you have a wonderful week. And bring in your journal, and we'll talk about it next week on Thursday, okay? All right, have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, Jordan.
Bye.
Oh, wow.